Hello golf fans, Chris Durrell here to bring you another DFS PGA video. This week we're going to be looking at the Masters. That's right, second time in 5 months we've got a trip to Augusta National with some of the best players in the world on arguably the best course in the world. Before we get into this week's event though, I want to give you a little insight on where you can find my content if you are new. If you're just checking out this video for the first time, checking out my YouTube channel for the first time, you can head over to patreon.com/Jagerbombs. I cover, right now we've got a bunch of sports going. We've got NHL package, we've got college basketball, League of Legends. It's down right now for the moment. It will be back soon. We've got PGA, and I cover full tournament as well as showdown. We've got soccer, EPL, as well as some UCL stuff, and pretty much whatever we can put together for soccer. UFC every week. We've got baseball, NBA, college football will be back next season. NFL will be back next season. We've got NASCAR, and I cover all 3 series. And that is $5 a month American or $7 a month Canadian gets you access to one sport, or $10 a month American or $13.50 a month Canadian gets you access to all sports. That gives you access to the cheat sheets, as well as my Slack chat, core plays in every price range for FanDuel and DraftKings. I cover Thrive Fantasy. I cover Prize Picks. So got a lot of content going on, so make sure to come over and check that out. You can also head over to DFSR.com. That's dailyfantasysportsrankings.com. You can grab a subscription there. So for your basic subscription, $14.95 a month, you are going to get access to the stats for NHL, NFL, NBA. You also get access to my cheat sheets as well as our chat room. For the pro package, $29.95 a month, you get all of that, plus you get our optimizer for NHL, NBA, NFL, MLB, and PGA. We just got that up last year. We've been having some success with it. I'm going to be talking about it here in this video, how I use it and how I'm going to use it this week in correlation using my sheet as well. So without further ado, let's jump into that. I'm going to go to the DFSR homepage here. The first thing we're going to do here is look at the weather for this week. So as you can see, Thursday and Friday in terms of wind looks very good. We're looking at about 5 to 10 miles an hour in wind. Temperatures in the 70s on Thursday. Friday it dips down a little bit, going to be a little bit cooler in the low 60s. We're going to get some rain on Friday. It looks like mostly in the morning. It looks like it's going to drive a little bit in the afternoon. So we could have some tougher scoring on Friday for sure. Going into Saturday, we've got some wind getting up in the afternoon, so that should dry it out for sure. Going into Sunday, where we've got temperatures, it's cool overnight and in the morning, but we get in low to mid 70s by the afternoon. Should be a great final round here with a little bit of wind. Really not a whole bunch going to affect anything. It should be dried out by then. We should have a really good tournament ahead of us. So not really looking at splitting up anything here in terms of tee time splits or anything. So we're just going to want to monitor this maybe a little bit in terms of playing showdown and especially for round 2 on Friday. So looking at the course, we've got Augusta National, my favorite course in the entire world. What we're going to be looking at here this week, there's a couple things I want to look at. I'm just going to scroll through and look at a couple pictures, and I'm going to talk about a couple things that stand out. First of all, we've got fairly wide fairways here, fairly generous, like last year, Dustin Johnson, which this tournament was held back in November. So it's going to play a little bit different. It's probably going to be a little more firm and fast this time around. But any experience here at Augusta is good experience for anyone in the field, whether they miss the cut or not. Just kind of get a feel for where you're supposed to land it, especially on the greens. We'll talk about that here in a second. But going back to Dustin Johnson back in November, he hit 78% of his fairways. He's not the most accurate guy on tour. He's more of a distance guy for sure. But we did see we usually see a higher than normal fairways hit here at Augusta. That puts a lot more emphasis on the approach shot because, first of all, if we just scroll through some more of these whole previews here, there's a lot of sand around the greens. That's one thing. The greens are a little bit larger, and as you can see, there is a lot of undulation on these greens. So that means if you don't put it on the right tier, and the flag sticks where they put them on days 1, 2, 3, and 4, sometimes can be in very tricky spots. So get in the ball on your approach shot, not just on the green, which would be your greens in regulation, but the strokes gained approach, and even furthermore, looking at proximity stats is what we're going to want this week. Three putt avoidance is something else I'll be looking at with these greens. We do see a lot of 3 putts here, a stat that kind of stood out to me, and it's not really a stat I look at out every week, but just in relation to other tournaments, looking at the putts per greens in regulation stat, no one was under 2 putts per greens in regulation last year at the Masters in 2020. Dustin Johnson was 2.007, and that led the field. So 3-putt avoidance can be definitely something that you can look at. It's not something I am immediately weighing in my original model, but it is something I will look at for players, maybe deciding between 2 players or something like that. We also see with these greens, there's a lot of natural runoffs around the edges. Like if you were to put one on here at number 10 with some backspin, it's going to come off likely if you don't land it past the flagstick where this pin location is, it's going to roll off the front of the green. Then you're looking at a tough scramble. So you see a lot of guys trying to bail out long, which again is going to make it tough because then you're shooting downhill. So there is a lot of challenges in and around the green. So approach shots for me when it comes to ball striking is number 1. Over off the tee, because I'm looking for some distance off the tee. That's really the only off the tee that I'm looking at in terms of the strokes gained statistics. And then approach shot is very, very big for me, depending on the distance. Whether your player's a long hitter off the tee, if he is, I'm looking at maybe more your mid-range, 150 to 175, 125 to 150 yard proximity range. For the shorter guys on tour, probably looking at 175 to 200 and 200 plus, looking at those long iron proximities. And looking at it from an overall statistical view, which would be my sheet, as well as looking at it from a last 12, last 24 rounds perspective, and that's what I use Fantasy National Golf Club for. So make sure to go over and check that out. I'm going to be referencing them here throughout the video. So we've looked at the course. I'm going to slide over and look at the model here on the sheet. First of all, like I said, I've got approach quite a bit over off the tee when looking at the strokes gained ball striking stats. Strokes gain around the green is going to be huge, especially here at this course because of the runoffs, because of the undulated greens. We're going to have a lot of scrambling that is going on here. So I think we're going always looking at strokes gain around the green / scrambling, and even if you want to weigh in a little bit of sand saves in there as well. Looking at driving distance, like I talked about, looking at par 4 and par 5 scoring, a little bit more par 4 than par 5. But both very important and correlated with your birdie or better percentage. Last year, we saw a winning score of -20. Like I said, I think it's going to play a little bit more firm and fast. And if we go look at the course history here, we've seen Dustin Johnson at -20, Tiger Woods won at -13. All of these other scores, outside of Jordan Spieth 2015 when he won at -18, these are all a lot lower scores than we've seen Dustin Johnson get. And just in terms of the whole entire field, the average scoring last year was a little bit lower than previous years, with it being in the fall, a little bit softer conditions with that 2020 Masters. So I'm not necessarily weighing 2020 and 2019 and prior in my model, but course history is something I am weighing a little bit, well, a lot more here at the Masters, just because we see a lot of experienced players do very well here. And it comes with that experience of, like I said, knowing where to not only place the ball off the tee, the fairways are wide, so hitting them isn't just good enough. You need the angles at the greens, especially with the different pin locations, and just knowing where to put it on each day, depending on those pin locations, is a huge advantage, and probably a 2 or 3 stroke advantage throughout the whole entirety of the tournament. So that's why I look at course history a little more. I'm not discounting any guys that are here for the first time whatsoever, but if it comes down to a guy in the same price range that has got experience here, whether it be miscuts or, like a T46, T36, something like that, nothing spectacular, but if he's got experience here versus a guy that doesn't, I'm probably going to lean the guy with experience first of all. Okay, so we'll go look at the course here real quick. We've got only one short par 4 under 400 yards. We've got 4 in that mid-range, 400 to 450 yards. We've got 5 450 plus yards, and 3 of them are over 490. So that's where that long iron proximity comes in. This is where I like looking at par 4 scoring a little more than par 5. It feels like everyone almost scores on the par 5s versus the par 4s are a lot harder. And this is where I feel guys can really separate themselves from the field. So par 4s with good proximity game, those guys are most likely going to be on the leaderboard come Sunday. So something else I wanted to look at in this preview video, I'm not going to get into all my top picks, because what I am going to do is we're going to have a live show Wednesday night again. Dane is going to be joining me. We're going to be talking ownership. We're going to be talking final plays, bets, first round leaders, stuff like that. So make sure to tune into that over on the same YouTube channel. So if you hit the like this video, if you subscribe and you hit the bell to get your notifications set to all, you will get notified when that live video drops. We are looking at about 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday night, maybe pushing it back to 8:30 p.m. Eastern. I will keep you up to date in the chat room as well as on Twitter when that is going to be. So just looking at this preview, a couple things I want to look at. We'll sort by official world golf ranking here. First of all, we've got every single one of the top 50 players in the world here, with Brooks Koepka in the field now. He's going to give it a try after some injury. He comes in with a nice number here at the Masters, 25 to 1. I think some places I've seen you can still get him around 40 to 1 depending on the book you use. I really like that from the 11th player in the world. It is a little bit risky, so I'm probably going to keep my exposure to Brooks in the betting market. And out of the DFS market. I will show you why here in a second with some of the plays that I am looking at. So if you wanted to sort by official world golf ranking and kind of look at, start comparing the prices here with some of the course history, that's one way I definitely look at it. I'll also come here at the start of the week, especially at this tournament, and look at the course history and break it down a little more. Let's sort by average finish over the last 5 years. Sungjae, runner-up last year, so small sample size. Dustin Johnson, very large sample size here. He won it last year finally after runner-up in 2019, T10 in 2018, didn't play in 2017. That's when he fell and hurt his ankle or his back. I forget what it was, but either way, it was like the day before he had pulled out there. T4 in 2016, T6 in 2015. So he's got a lot of experience here, a lot of good experience, 5 straight top 10s, and he won last time. This is why he's the most expensive golfer this week. I don't think you can go wrong starting your lineups, because what we see with the Masters is some softer pricing. So building lineups with Dustin Johnson is not going to be hard. So if you have him as your top guy, he's even viable in cash games this week at 11-5, 12-1 on FanDuel. Some other guys with some excellent course history. Rory Mcelroy is looking for that win. So he gets a win at all 4 of the majors. He's been looking for that for quite a while now. Finished T5. He had a look for it in November. But he's got top 10s in 6 of his last 7 trips here. So he's got really good course history. He's 10-2. So you get quite a bit of a discount going down to Rory Mcelroy off Dustin Johnson. Very similar course history, except for that win. We could definitely see that come this year. In terms of ownership, I'm not sure exactly where it's going to fall right now, but I feel like McIlroy is going to be around 5th to 7th in ownership. I don't think he's going to be one of the highest owned, just because of some of the prices of these other guys that we're going to be jamming in. Jon Rahm stands out. He's going to be a favorite this week. Looking at, just reading stuff online, seeing what everyone's on. Jon Rahm at 11,000 is good pivot off of Dustin Johnson. So there's a lot of good plays here at the top. So what you're going to have to do, I'm going to go back and sort by price here again real quick. What I am doing this week is kind of looking at each price range, 10K and up, and I am, for my 20 max build anyway, that's what I'm looking at, is kind of looking and narrowing down 2 guys from this top range, and then maybe 2 guys from this 9K range, 2 from the 8K range. Depending on the size of the range, 7K range is a little bit bigger, so I'm probably looking for 3 to 4 players in that range, and then 3 to 4 players down here in the 6K range, which there are quite a few. Probably going to expand that to 4 to 5 players in that range, and then I'm going to try and build around there. So what I would do is like take Dustin Johnson. We come down here and say Jordan Spieth, take those 2 players, one from the 11K, one from the 9K, and then probably come down into the 7K with that build. If you were starting with, say, Jordan Spieth and Patrick Reed, 2 guys in the 9K, you could probably go 3 guys in the 9K, throw in Webb Simpson or Koepka or Finau or whoever you like in there, throw 3 of those guys together. So there's a lot of ways when it comes to these softer pricing events on DraftKings, especially the different ways that you can build lineups. I suggest not building 20 different, very diverse lineups. What I like to do is build a core. So I'll put together a core. Let's just say Spieth and Reed. And then come down here and say this 8K range. Let's say you're really on Daniel Berger. Take those 3 players, and I'm probably going to build 8 to 10 lineups with that 3 players, and then just switch in the other 3 players, kind of making it so that with this core of 3 players, I want to not have, say, more in those 10 lineups, no more than 3 of any other player. If that makes sense. So no more than 30% of those 10 lineups with another player. So I've got those 3 locked into 10 lineups. So then what I would do is come down and pick 3 players to fill in. I'm not sure the average salary. I don't have my DraftKings up, but let's just say you throw in Connors, Zalatoris, and Answer as your other 3. There's one lineup. So then I would take Answer, Zalatoris, and Connors out. Maybe I'm really, really high on Answer. He would be my next top guy in that tier. You leave Answer in with those 3 from that first lineup. And then instead of Zalatoris and Connors, I'd come in and maybe go like, let's say, Victor Perez and Justin Rose or whatever. And then for the next lineup, I would leave Answer in one more time and then I'd 2 different players, and then I would swap out Answer, and maybe I'd throw Connors back in and then go 2 different players. What I'm trying to do is build a core so that when my core of players goes off, I have 10 to 20 chances to take down the contest that I'm in, versus if I have a very, very diverse 20 lineups that are nowhere near the same. I really just need one of those cores and one of those lineups to do good, in which case you've only got one shot to win that GPP, really, because all your cores are different throughout your lineups because you're very diverse. Some people like doing it that way, so they cover more of the field. In a 20 max, I'm trying to keep a player pool of about 12 to 15, maybe max 18 players at an event like this, just because of the softer pricing and more options and ways to build lineups. But that's how I go about building lineups, especially for this event. So let's just go look at some form here. Then I'll talk about a couple of players that stand out to me, maybe one in each price range that I'm using as a core. You can also go over to DFSR.com over here and click on the PGA, and you can go in and you can check out my article for this week. I talk about my core plays. I got Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Webb Simpson, Cameron Smith, Paul Casey, Abraham Answer, and Corey Connors. Those are a few of my core plays in each price range. They are highlighted on the sheet for members as well. To get the rest of my picks, definitely come and sign up to Patreon or DFSR.com. You'll be able to get all my picks. And like I said, on Wednesday night, I'm going to be finalizing those picks on the sheet, as well as discussing it on a live show, along with some weather updates, some ownership updates, some GPP pivots off some of the chalk. Obviously, this week, I think looking at some, or just making some projections early in the week, Jordan Spieth has been amazing here at Augusta, and he has been, his form, first of all, throughout this entire year probably would have put him in top 3 in ownership, not even thinking about his win last week at the Valero. But he has gained, this is his strokes gained on approach, going back to the Waste Management Phoenix Open at the start of February. 7.8, 4, negative 0.8 at the Genesis, but he had a red-hot putter there, still finished T15, gained 5.5 at the Arnold Palmer, 6.2 at the Players, and 7.4 in his win last week at the Valero. His iron game is on point, and he's always been excellent around the greens and always an excellent putter. He had a streak there, 2019, 2018, where the putter maybe wasn't as good. He's right back up there. He's gained strokes putting in 5 of his last 6 events, and 3 of those were 4+ strokes putting. He's gained strokes around the green in 9 of his last 10 events, 9 of his last 11 events, and 2+ in 5 of those. So never worried about the around the green and the putting with Spieth. The fact that he's coming in with strong form, the irons are on point, and he's even gained, listen to this, strokes off the tee in 4 of his last 5 events. That's where he was really struggling, is off the tee. I know it's not as important here, but if he's hitting it straight off the tee and getting that distance here, and then his irons are on, and even if his irons are a little bit off, the around the green and the putting, everything just stands out for Spieth at 9,400 to probably be the highest owned player this week. The fact that he's coming off a win and has been very good here. He's won here before. He almost won here the year after in 2016, T3 in 2018. The last 2 trips haven't been great, but again, the form hasn't been good. I wish that would be enough to take people off of him a little bit, but it's not. He's going to be the highest owned player, so you really need to decide, do you want more than the field? My guess is he's going to be about 30%, 35% owned in GPP. So right from there, I am using Spieth. So what I'm going to do is make sure I have more than the field. So if I think he's going to be 35% owned, I'm going to have him in 40 to 45% of my lineups when I'm building my cores. That's kind of the way I look at ownership. And if I'm going to be overweight on the field, if I'm using a chalk player, I want to make sure that I have either the same as the field or more than the field to have a little bit of an advantage. Say Spieth does very, very good, I want to make sure that I'm covered a little bit more than what the field has on his ownership, so I have more chances, obviously, to take down that GPP. On the flip side, if I wanted to fade Spieth, if you decide, okay, he's going to be 40% owned, I think there's a good chance he may have a letdown here, or at least I want to have some leverage on the field if he doesn't, and that's the way you're going to build very contrarian builds, which we've talked about this in the past. You could easily, each and every week, go and cross off the top 3 to 5 highest owned projected players out of your player pool and just build from there, because golf is very volatile from week to week, even from round to round, very, very volatile. So going and making those pivots off of those chalk guys each and every week, not necessarily something I would do here at the Masters, just because of some things that we talked about in terms of course history and stuff like that. But on any given week, if you did that for an entire season, you would find your GPP win-ins, your GPP profit and loss would definitely start climbing for you. So some other players that stand out here in this top range, Justin Thomas was number 1 in my model back in November. He came very close. He ended up finishing T4. He's gotten better every single time coming here. I definitely like him. I love seeing that improvement each and every time he comes here. This will be his 6th time coming to Augusta now, which I really do like. He's coming off a win at the Players. The iron game is on. So Justin Thomas definitely, as the 4th most expensive player in DraftKings, mid 10-6, is probably my favorite play in this top range outside of Spieth. If we're including the 9K guys in this top range, Webb Simpson seems very underpriced at $9,000. I know the form hasn't been great. He's coming off that really bad event at Players here. I'm just pulling up his stats. Give me just a second, but we can't avoid Webb at this price. He's got top 10s. He's improved after missing the cut back in 2017. Actually, he didn't miss the cut there. That was just finishing near the back of the field. He finished T20 in 2018, T5 in 2019, and then T10 here back in November. Seeing those improvements in back-to-back top 10s. He's the kind of player with his game, the precision, the irons, the around the green, and even with the putter. He's another player like Spieth that I definitely look to here almost every single time. So I think he's going to take on some ownership. I mean, the odds to win are there as well. I'll definitely be taking a shot. I think I got him actually at 42 to 1 as a first click back on Monday. So I definitely like that there. Koepka, I talked about him. I'm going to be betting him outright probably, but I don't think I want to piece him coming off injury here. I will probably fade him. I know a lot of people will be on him. So with projected ownership on Koepka and Spieth here, possibly even Morikawa and Cantlay, I think Patrick Reed could definitely come in here a little bit under-owned. He won me a bunch of money back in 2018 betting on him here at Masters. I bet on him. I got him at 44 to 1. He's down to 34 to 1 now. T10 back in November. Like I said, he's got to win here. He's got that right to left draw ball flight for a right-handed golfer that we like to see as well. So that worked out. That works out for him here. He's another player. He's excellent from the sand. He's excellent around the green, and he's got a pretty good putter here as well. I'm just going to bring up his stats here real quick and look at it. He is actually 2nd in strokes gained putting over the last 24 rounds, 6th in par 4 scoring, 7th in DK points, and 8th in birdie or better percentage. So he's coming in with form. He's always good around the green. He's gained strokes putting in 8 straight events, so we never have to worry about that. So that's just a strong play for me. So really, my line of construction is either going to start with Thomas or Johnson at the very, very top if I'm going more stars and scrubs. I do like these balance builds a ton with guys in this 9K range. Definitely going to be a way I'm going to be building probably 10 of my lineups, maybe even up to 12. I might even end up doing a couple 20 max builds just to try and maximize. I'm going to show you how I do that in the DFSR tool here shortly, how you could definitely go and just X out and use the filters and take out all these top guys and concentrate on these guys down here. The mid-range guys that I'm looking at here as we scroll through, first one that really stands out, 16th in my model, Paul Casey, 18th in the world, 36 to 1 odds. I'm not betting him to win, but he has a lot of experience here at Augusta. The last 2 events have not been great. He missed the cut in 2019, ho-hum T38 here in November, but before that he was T15, T6, T4, T6. He comes in with 4 straight top 10, so he's got form, he's got experience, and he is very cheap at 7,700. That is a play. He's going to be high owned. I definitely like it. Cam Smith, I talked about in my article as well. Top 5s in 2 of his last 3 trips to Augusta. He's only 8,200 on DK. He's under 10K on FanDuel. I have an outright bet on him to win here. He comes in with excellent form as well. 3 straight top 25s and top 25s in 7 of his last 9 events. So he's got form. He's got that experience, and not just experience at Augusta, but he, almost winning twice. Top 5s in 2 of his last 3, so I definitely like that. Looking at his around the green stats, if we slide over and look at that, he is 13th in this field in tee to green, and my stats are 95% this season with 5% weight on last season's stats as well. So I really like seeing that with Cam Smith, 2nd in par 5 scoring, so we know he's going to score there. Going down even further, Abraham Answer, number 31 in the world, 81 to 1. I like him for a little bit longer shot at an outright. I also love him for in my player pool for DK as well. T13 in his first trip. So that was really nice to see in 2020 in November there, making his first trip to the Masters in Augusta. He finished with a T13. It was excellent. Another guy that comes in with tremendous form. He just seems like he's been a lock for a top T25 almost every single week. Going back, if we look at this, all the T25s scattered in there, he's averaging 30.4 over the last 5 events and 30.3 over the last 10. Just ultimate consistency for quite a long period of time here. Really like Abraham Answer. I think we can pivot. Our DFSR system really likes Will Zalatoris. Really hard to argue with that. He doesn't have a lot of PGA Tour experience. This is his first time here, so people may be avoiding him. A lot of those other guys that I just talked about, Casey, Answer, Adam Scott, Cam Smith here in the 8K range. A lot of these guys in here, Corey Connors, we'll talk about here at 6,900 in a bit. They're going to take some ownership. So I think Zalatoris is going to come a little bit lower owned, being that it's his first time here. Probably 5 to 8% owned in GPP. He's a player I'll definitely be jumping on. Like I said, the DFSR system absolutely loves it. I'm going to show you that here in a second. These are his strokes gained going back to since the calendar flipped to 2021, going back to the Farmers in January, gained let's look at tee to green, which is mostly driven by his strokes gained approach, but the ball striking has been on point. Tee to green, going back to January at the Farmers, he was T7 at the Farmers. He gained 5.3 strokes tee to green, 6.1 strokes tee to green at the Waste Management, T17. Had a rough Pebble Beach. He lost 1 stroke tee to green, but still made the cut, ended up T55. Genesis, he only gained half a stroke tee to green, but finished with a T15. 9.3 strokes at the WGC, T22. T10 at the Arnold Palmer, gained 8.6 strokes. T21 at the Players, gained 6.5 strokes. So, good ball striker. He's good around the green. The putter is very streaky, so that's something that definitely has me concerned here at Augusta in his first time. But again, he's going to be a GPP pivot off some of these guys. In my 20 max, I'm probably going to limit him to probably 3 or 4 lineups. Is going to be the most I will have him. And that final decision will come down to Wednesday night when we start breaking down the ownership projections. I'm very interested to hear Dane's take on him as well. Talked about Corey Connors. What I like about him is the ball striking. Obviously, the around the green and the putting is a concern for him, but he's got experience here. He comes in with some form. He was T46 back in 2019, T10 in November, and some little bit softer conditions. So I'm looking at more of like a T25, T30 from him this week. I think would be enough with the birdies that he's going to accumulate at his price under 7,000. Jason Kochrack missed the cut here in November. Not too concerned about that. It was good to see that he got that under his belt. Some experience here at Augusta. He's now back. He has some nice odds at 101 to 1 when the guys are, surrounded in the same price range at 126. There's quite a few guys ahead of him with worse odds. And we know he's a good ball striker. 3 straight top 10s coming in. So he's coming in with some form. Like I said, he's got experience here, although it was a miscut. He has been here once now. He's seen Augusta. He knows some of the roles, some of the positions. So I do like seeing that. Matt Kuchar coming off a good event, as well as, I'm going to pull up Kuchar here real quick. I had him up, but it was off. So looking at Kuchar, the overall stats aren't going to be good looking at much because he went on quite a long streak of some pretty terrible golf for him. But he's coming off a T12 at the Valero, which was nice because he had a nice run at the match play. That's what I was trying to say. So 2 good events in a row. He's coming in with some form. He's got a long history here as well. Top 10s, 4 top 10s in his last 10 trips, and he's made the cut. He was struggling here back in November, but before that he had made 9 straight cuts here at the Masters here at Augusta. So I definitely like Kuchar. So those are some of my plays. With those plays, let's now go over and look at the DFSR tools. So we'll go up here to the top. We'll go to PGA Lineup Optimizer. So the first thing he's going to see is DraftKings or FanDuel, Classic or Showdown. So we're going to look at Classic. We're going to look at DraftKings, and what we're going to do, the filter's over here on the side. So whether you're building 1 or 50 lineups, I'm going to set it at 50 for my multi-entry. Randomness, this is just depending on how diverse you want your lineups. So when I make 50 lineups, I'm going to lock, let's say, Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth. and we'll hit optimize. Because with the DraftKings tool, you have to either lock 2 players or lock 1 player and X a player out to be able to generate your lineups. So once we do this, what we see now is we'll have 100% exposure through 50 lineups to Thomas and Spieth, and then it's going to mix in the other players. So what we do with the diversity tool, and the percentages beside just show you what percentage that player is in the number of lineups that you chose up here. So Abraham Ancer at 98% means he's in 49 of 50 lineups. Billy Horschel just means he's in, can't do that math. He's in 6 lineups. 12%, that means he's in 6 of 50 lineups. So first thing that you can do is start playing around with these individual players. If you don't want Ancer in 98% of your lineups, you go up here and you find Ancer in the player pool, and you come over here to this percentage. Let's go 25%. No, I'm actually pretty high on him. Let's go 50%. Hit optimize again. We are now down to 50% Abraham Ancer. So that's how you can do your player exposures and go through your player pool. That's one way to do it. Another way is you can come over here and just change the randomness. So if you want randomness at 100, the first thing that you're going to notice when you hit optimize is any given player is not going to have a 50% to 100% percentage throughout the rest of your lineup. We have Ancer at 50 because we've already plugged in 50 here, but the rest of the players are going to be spread out. You're going to see a lot more players in your player pool if you're doing it this way and only locking 2 players and setting your randomness up to 100. If you set the randomness down to 0, you're going to see a lot tighter core of players throughout your 50 lineups. So that's how that works. I'm going to reset the page here and talk about some other filters. So first of all, we'll go back up to 50 lineups. So if you wanted to, and say you're doing 150 lineups in the Millie Maker, or if you want to experiment with things, I suggest going in like the quarter arcade, 150 lineups, and then you can only build 50. That's the limit with the DFSR tools. But one thing you can do is build 50, change your strategy, build 50 more, change your strategy, build 50 more. So in one, I may lock a few players and then run the diversity very low, keeping a very, very tight core of 50 lineups. I'll then export that and go enter that into the 150 into the quarter arcade or the Millie Maker or whatever 150 max you're doing. And then I'll come back here, I'll reset everything. Let's say 50 more lineups. I talked about going balanced. So if you were to take this salary filter here and put your max salary at 9,900 and then hit optimize, we still have to lock an X a player. So Jordan Spieth falls in there. I know he's going to show up. Let's just go X a player out here, Mackenzie Hughes, and hit optimize now and see what this brings us with this more balanced filter, this more balanced build that we're going to do. So first of all, we see no players over 10K, much more balanced lineups. I absolutely love this. We get Simpson, Berger, Spieth, Matsuyama, Ancer, and Zalatoris. I am high on all of them. So what you see right now, again, you can now throw in, if you want to, you can play with this randomness, because as you see, we've got Ancer in 100%. So if we take the randomness up to 100 now and go hit this again, we're not going to get Ancer at that 100%. We get Ancer at 14%. No one over 25% with that randomness filter all the way up at the top. So that's how you use the randomness. If you're multi-entering, I'm going to go back to 0. Takes a little bit of time when you're doing 50 lineups and you're changing you've got multiple filters working. It's going to take some time, so be patient with that. Now, that's the second way. Now, another way is using my sheet. You're going to see highlighted plays, green, blue, and yellow. Generally, I'm going to have about, like I said, 12 to 20 players max highlighted, usually 2 to 3 from each of these top smaller ranges of pricing. But I like to keep a tight core. Doesn't necessarily mean I wouldn't use the rest of them, and that's where you can approach me in chat or on Twitter, ask me about any players that you want. But another way you can do it is if you could take all my players, you could come in here, come to this player pool here. I usually like to sort by price. Oops. Set the filter back to max so we get all the players in the player pool. I come down here at the bottom of the price and I just start Xing guys off. And at the Masters, this is good because we get if you've won the Masters in the past, you have a lifetime exemption into this tournament. So we get guys like Larry Mize, Sandy Lyle, Jose Maria Olazabal, Vijay Singh, Mike Weir, Fred Couples, Bernhard Longer. We get all these guys in here that generally aren't going to do much. We have seen, you know, Fred Couples, Bernhard Langer, we've seen them make the cut, but generally we see a lot of these old guys not really do much for us for fantasy. They're like par machines. They're not going to give us DFS points, even if they do make the cut. So I like to come in here and pretty much, you know, these guys are, none of them are in my player pool. So this is kind of how I would go about doing it, is I'd come in here and X out any player that I don't want in my player pool. I'd like some Jimmy Walker, put him in there, but I'm just generally showing you what I would do here is just start Xing this out and reducing your player pool, really reducing it down to the players that you like, and then you still have to lock one. You always have to lock a player to get the DraftKings. FanDuel, you don't have to lock anyone. DraftKings, you do. So let's just lock in Patrick Reed, one player. We start Xing out all the players that we don't want in our player pool. Now we've reduced our player pool to just the players that we want the lineup optimizer to build. Now, keep in mind that if you're building 50 lineups and your player pool is very small, chances are you're going to need probably 15 to 20. And sometimes if your player pool isn't big enough, players that you have X'd out might start creeping in because the algorithm isn't able to build up to 50 lineups for you with the player pool that you have put together. So keep that in mind. If you're finding that there's errors, either hit me up in chat and I can help you with that, or just generally go check your player pool. Most people that do use this tool, our customers now, are just locking a player or two or three, or Xing a couple out that they don't want in their player pool. They're not generally building a complete player pool. This is something, if you have a little bit more time, the more you sit down and research and use these filters, the more success I think you're going to have versus just coming in. Like for FanDuel, for instance, you can just come straight in, hit optimize without locking anything, without playing with any filters, and you can get our lineup. You can get lineups. Takes a couple seconds because I did set it to 50 here, but as you can see, you can now come in and just start lineups, export, done. You can be done. 50 lineups just like that. That is one way to do it. If you're new, I'm totally fine with doing that. Me personally, I like coming in here and locking some players that I like and building my player pools out. So with Reed and Spieth locked, we can definitely go and build a player pool with that if you want to lock another player on FanDuel. So like I said, you don't have to lock anyone, but generally I like to, I personally like to keep my diversity down. 50 max is kind of the way I go. I like to, like I said, I like to keep my player pools tight. If you're someone that wants a little more diversity and you want to lock 3 players and you want to build 50 lineups with just those 3 players and you want it very diverse, definitely crank it up to 100. Build 50 lineups. You're going to have those 3 players that you really, really love, 100% of your lineups, but you're going to limit those other 3 players throughout those 50 lineups. Let's just do that right here, right now. 50 lineups. Let's lock Spieth and Reed. 50 lineups at 100 randomness. As you can see, we're not getting any other players over 20% in those lineups, versus if we go and crank that down to 0, we are going to have 50 lineups with Spieth and Reed. Answer's probably going to show up 100 here again. The system is very high on him this week. Zalatoris is probably going to show up 100. No, actually fairly diverse. We've got 84% of Answer. We've got some Billy Horschel at 50%, Daniel Berger 34%, Webb Simpson at 30%. You go into FanDuel 2 here. That's when Zalatoris slips in here, 76% of him. So it really all depends on how you want to use the filters. There is a ton of ways to do it. Definitely hit me up in the chat room. I can put together other videos if I haven't covered something right. Give me all the ideas and I will put together more videos for you guys. And again, I am having a Patreon for this video. I'm having a contest giveaway this week. So make sure to like the video, comment with your pick to win the Masters, and then at the end of the tournament on Sunday, I am going to, I have a website that's like, I put in the YouTube video address and it randomly picks one person from the comments, and I'm going to be giving that person $25 via PayPal. If you are a Patreon member and you are chosen, I will double that prize as well. So that'll be $50 via PayPal, US dollars, sent to you just for supporting my channel. I really, really appreciate it. So make sure to like that video, comment with your pick to win, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, and hit all. If you do that, you will get notified when my live show for Wednesday comes out. With all that said, it's Masters Week, everybody. Let's go start building some lineups and see some green screens this weekend. Good luck out there.